how do you get there? Part of this process of this conference was to talk to the European alliance. We're going to be critical of this. Because when you hear, you've got to bring the allies with you as well. And how do they play? Are they going to play a part? Of course they are. But if you've got to bring it to a lasting peace, you can't do this on your own. You can't do it at the exclusion of President Zelensky and the Ukrainians. You can't do it at the exclusion of anyone. They all have to be involved. And that's part of my process. That's part of the process that you're seeing as well, which is happening here. We're talking about the allies. And you also look at what's happening, what we're going on. So when you think of a dual track, for those of you that are not following it, you see that right now we've got actually a dual track going. And that's important to realize. What I mean by a dual track, we've got a Russian track going on. At the same time, we've got a Ukrainian track going on. So if you look at the news, you see that you've got our envoy for the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, is involved because he's got the Russian lane, and I'm working the American/Ukrainian allied lane as well. And we're doing that for speed because what we want to do is say, well, when is this thing going to end? Are we going to come back in a year on the Munich conference in 2026 and say, we're going to study this for another year and we'll think about it. No, we're talking time. And any of you that work with Donald J. Trump need to understand I'm on Trump time. And Trump time means he asks you to do this job today and he'll want to know tomorrow why isn't it solved. So we're working from a timeline. We're saying that I use the time publicly of 100 days and back to make sure that the parties are involved. We get to a degree of separation, we get to a degree, and this is not confirmed. You go to a ceasefire first, or peace treaty first. We want to make sure that it's lasting, it's sustainable, you ensure the sovereignty of Ukraine, and we ensure that once this thing stops, it never starts again, or the consequences are going to be enormous on either side. So this is the process we're building. I'm going in next week into Ukraine, and we're going to kind of compare notes when we come out. When I come out of Ukraine, go into the Oval Office, talk to the president, say, this is what the alliance says. This is what they see. This is how they see what a sustainable peace looks like. This is what they talk about. What is, when we talk about secure long-term borders, what does it look like? And then you kind of compare notes. Say, okay, now we've got a kind of framework that we can really work at that we've never had before. Let me just use a couple of data points so you can have them real quickly. President Trump picked up the phone and he called President Putin and called President Zelensky back to back. President Biden had to talk to Putin over 2 years. It's kind of hard not to get to a position where you don't talk to anybody. And I think that's an important decision. He's appointed special envoys to do this. So he's taken ownership of this right away. And he's told the American people this is something we're going to solve on good terms, in terms that are good for not just the American people, but for good as well. And I'm trying to abbreviate because I know you want to get to other questions as quickly as possible, but know that we're into the game. We're into the game hard. We're going to work on solutions. That does not mean that anybody's exclusion. And I don't mean when I say anybody's exclusion, that doesn't mean Ukraine. It doesn't mean Russia as well. But it doesn't mean that we're excluding the alliance as well. Because when you come to a final call on this, that everybody is involved. Not just, by the way, just not Europe. This is a global issue, and we all have to understand it because, and I'll close with this, because we are facing a condition in the United States we didn't face 4 years ago. When you look 4 years ago, you had the Russians up in this corner, you had the North Koreans up in this corner, you had the Iranians down here, and you had the North Koreans over here. Well, now you've got 4 of them combined, and they've all either got economic or military treaties. What does that mean? Example. You see North Koreans fighting in Ukraine. Well, that means potentially, if we have an explosion and something bad goes in South Korea, you could see Russians fighting with the North Koreans against South Korea. Understand the magnitude of that, and it's something we have to address.
That was really interesting.